Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to talk about one of, if not my favorite leader in the One Piece universe. That's right, let's talk about our OP10 Shanks deck list. And then right here, I'm putting my secret card that I think is going to keep Shanks viable in OP11 to talk about at the end of the video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I play a hyper reduction version of Shanks. So I start off with 2 Building Snake. I play between 2 and 4, but really being able to get that -3 power helps you KO some really big bodies throughout the game. After that, we have our 4 2Ks of Otama, which act as 2Ks, but also at the same time, that -2 on play really helps out. I play 4 copies of Hongo, so no lime juice. I go for full Hongo for that -2000 power. This is a great card. You put this down and they're going to have to answer it, or else they're going to be playing -2000 power something every time you attack. Looking at some new cards from OP10, I play 4 copies of the Sanji. This really helps with early turn and early game aggression, but at the same time, on KO, draw 1 card. It helps solve a problem that Shanks has, which is a bricky and small hand, and really keeps you viable throughout that mid game. I then play 4 2Ks of the Tony Chopper, which are a fantastic blocker. Also not a bad 2K to use, but if you think about this, opponent's turn, you're 6000 power. With leader ability, you're basically going to be able to block 6K attacks or even 7K attacks with relative ease. And keeping this on the board if they can't remove it really helps solidify and keep you at a high life count towards that mid to end game. One of the best cards in the Shanks deck, that is right, I play 4 copies of Lucky Rouge. Even without Dofi, this card is so good. It's so annoying to play around. Really, the opponent's only option is to pretend like this card just doesn't exist. Then I play 5 copies of Yasop. I like 4 copies of Yasop. I like 4 copies because that -1000 reduction power really plays into my play style. But at the same time, being able to turn your leader into a 6K leader, if you play it once or twice, back to back, that really can help Shanks survive with a higher life count towards the end, which is one of Shanks' weaknesses. Sleepy Luffy is a fantastic card. We only play 2 of them. I can see why people play more, but we kind of synergize with the Sanji and then the Sleepy Luffy to have some early aggro without sacrificing our reduction model too much. Next up, you have to play 4 copies of this Benjamin Beckman. I don't need to say anything else. This card is amazing. I love it. Right off the bat too, you gotta play 4 copies of Silver Rayleigh. I see a lot of people playing 3, even 2 copies of this card. I don't know, you get so much value off of this. I really think in OP10, without Lucci and Dofi doing too crazy, you can really get a lot of value off of this 8-drop cost. And if you play 2 back-to-back, even without a KO, just to diminish in a defensive way, diminish your opponent's attack power, you get so much value out of 8 Dawn. I play 2 copies of Monkey D. Dragon. Being able to play that dragon, boost your leader, and swing 9 and 7 really helps. And even just the presence of this card in a lot of Shanks decks makes people play around and always think, well, they could have that rush and that extra 2 Dawn to plop down. I've seen some decks that don't even play this card anymore. 10-drop Shanks is a menace to society. -1000. You play 2 or 3 of these back to back to back, it's going to be really hard for your opponent to pull through unless they have you at 1 or 0 life. I like playing 1 copy of the Bomb Shanks. I've been playing around with adding it up to 2 copies as well, but this on KO really helps. The only reason that I'm keeping this at 1 copy is Blackbeard is a very common card, a very common leader to play in this format. I just don't think, on plays are the best way to go, but these rush cards really help for those Blackbeard matchups. I also play 1 copy of Goldie Roger just to have. Sometimes it wins you the game. Worst case scenario, you don't have a really good top end and you can go ahead and drop a 10-drop rush card and it's still equally as good. Now, talking about the events that I play 2 copies of Divine Departure. I think this card is fantastic as a backup counter event, but at the same time, I primarily use this for removing some big bodies towards that mid to late game. You know, if you're playing a Bonnie or a Smoker and they drop a kid, boom, Divine Departure. This really helps, but at the same time, it's hard to justify sometimes 6 Dawn for that removal. It's nice to have in your back pocket, but I don't play it every single game. I also run 2 copies of the Bad Manners Kick Course. This card is great for getting rid of bricks, and if I wasn't going to play Divine Departure, I would probably run 4 copies of Bad Manners. And then my last event, I played 2 Radical Beams. I know I play a lot of events, but this really solidifies my defense towards that late game, especially if I play a big body and I really needed to stick. Having a Rad Beam or, you know, a Bad Manners Kick Course in my back pocket to survive and then hit with another 10-drop Shanks right after that really helps, but it does also feel really bad. And this deck list primarily gets stuck when you really want to make something happen and play on curve and you have 5 event cards in hand and there's really nothing you can do but swing with a lot of Dawn on your leader. It really does feel bad. But without further ado, that is my updated deck list for OP10, moving into EBO2 and then also OP11. I think Shanks is going to need to change to stay viable. We will most likely have to switch to the Straw Hat package, which is a little bit more aggressive, a more aggro, less defensive Shanks to be able to stay viable with Grape Luffy and of course the OP11 terrifying 3-life Luffy, which is why as we shift to the Straw Hat package, I think there's this one card that I don't see in a lot of deck lists that I think could really help Shanks keep up, and that is OP01's Usopp. Now, if you don't know, this is Dawn 1, your turn, once per turn, draw 1 card when your opponent activates an event. So this also acts as a 2K blocker, a 2K counter, excuse me, but really what you can do with this is counter, or at least try to counter Gum Gum Giant in some way, shape, or form. Being able to aggressively pitch counter from your hand to stay at a high life until you also reach 10 Dawn, and playing this Usopp, having them use Gum Gum Giant, getting an extra card, I think it really just feels good to play Shanks and have a large hand size towards that late game. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's going to destroy those 2 Luffys that are coming at us in EBO2 and OP11, but I think it is definitely worth considering. I have high hopes for this card. I think a lot of people won't expect it. I've been playing it 1 or 2 copies in my local scene just as a test, and it is adding a certain degree of consistency that I think Shanks could be lacking with the sets coming forward. But without further ado, let me know what you think in the comments below, what I should add, what I should take out, and is Shanks going to survive the next set? Let me know. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.